Hello, everybody. Wow, what a great packed audience we have here. I'm Mike Hogan, the digital director at Vanity Fair, and I'm thrilled to be here with the creative team and cast of Santa Clarita Diet on Netflix. Starting at the end is Victor Fresco, the executive producer. Then we have Liv Hewson, who plays Abby on the show. Timothy Oliphant, who plays Joel Hammond. A little-known actress named Drew Barrymore, who plays Sheila Hammond. And Skylar Gisondo, who plays Eric. And Drew, if I want to start with you because we just met, but I feel like we grew up together. Is that okay for me to say? I feel like people probably say that to you.
No, I am. I'm like the old chair.
No,
but I think that is a good thing. And I think I'm like Norm from Cheers. Like I am the large man at the end of the bar who's consistently there with a beer. Like it's very comfortable. So
well,
yes,
I didn't mean it like that, but I was going to say...
That's how I see it, and I like it. But I like yours too.
Great, okay. Well, but from when you were a child playing Firestarter, Cat's Eye, you've always had a thing for horror. You've been in a lot of horror. Do you have a thing for horror? Do you like horror? Is horror like a thing for you?
I cannot watch horror. It was when I was younger. Like, I loved When a Stranger Calls. That film screwed me up more than any film I've ever seen in my life. So I've always been fascinated with it, but I don't watch it for pleasure because I don't find those movies entertaining. I find them to realize my worst nightmare. So I like to be in them, but not watch them.
That's fair. That sounds right. And Victor, I wanted to ask you.
I don't like horror either.
You don't like horror either? Okay, great. Just checking.
I feel like I have enough anxiety in my life that I don't like to sit and watch things that make me anxious. But I never thought of this as horror. I don't know if this was going to be your question, but I'm just piggybacking. I never thought of this as horror. I always thought of it as a comedy with life and death stakes, like a bigger...
Right.
Patina to be on for comedy than we're usually used to.
I think that's why we're so alike. Like when we're not working, we're usually by the monitors talking about our children, and it's so like heartfelt and normal. And then Victor and I also don't think that like the vomit or the blood is like too crazy. Although that changed when I was recently presented with bull's balls and bird saliva in, where were we, Tim?
That was in Bangkok.
Yeah. Like, that's a delicacy for them. Oh, I think it was actually a Taiwanese journalist.
That's true. It was a Taiwanese journalist in Bangkok.
And for the first time,
that didn't stop me from trying to say I love Thailand to her in Thai. It was a big mistake.
We just got back. We're jet lagged. Sorry.
But this was a gift. What was the context of you receiving bull's balls?
It was at a press junket, and she presented me with this thing, and it was the first time, Victor, I ever thought, oh, yeah, I do have a squirmy stomach or a queasy stomach sometimes, because I think Victor's right. Like, this is not a horror genre show. It's about family and making daily life work, and it's a comedy, and Victor and I are so similar in our lack of, like, we don't think it's that bizarre.
You guys, I'm curious, do you guys think of it as a horror? Like, raise your hand if you feel like it is in the horror genre, not that many.
It's
not
about love.
Here, at least. Okay, well, so let me ask you this then. Zombies, big fixture of American cinema, going back at least to George Romero. What do the zombies mean to you, Victor, as the creator?
We call them undead.
The undead.
We feel that the word zombie is derogatory because they've inherently...
You've got to be very careful these days, folks.
Mythology around them where they're mindless consumers of human flesh, and we believe more than that. So we feel like undead kind of captures it in a more friendly way.
And not cannibals, because cannibals are assholes and they do it by choice, right?
Right, okay.
They're not cannibals either. That's right. She's doing it because she has to do it.
That's right. She's a victim.
You eat people mindfully, not mindlessly. It's mindful, like, consumption of humans.
You...
But I always felt like why, we are used to seeing one version of the undead, which is mindless consumers of human flesh. But why can't you have that same virus but be a normal person? And then since I come from comedy, I thought that was a funny area to work in of what if you're activated. The undead are activated to want what they want whenever they want it, and that's generally eating. But what if that activation permeates in other parts of your life? So you also want to be, you're sexualized more, and you want to be better at your job, and you want to just be a huge presence in life. So why can't that undead switch that we're used to seeing as just consuming also, take over these other parts of your life? So that's where it came from. It's like it activates Sheila's id. She becomes the person kind of that she wanted to be, with this one kind of mixed element of it is that she has to kill and eat people.
Right.
Also,
Nothing's perfect, right?
You talked about the element of narcissism as a societal metaphor when we first had our first conversation, and I thought that was so amazing, whether it's social media or, especially the way I've grown up, I was always very sort of experimental and not withheld. And I thought the themes of the show were so deep. How do you make, a relationship work if somebody decides after 25 years, and Tim has said it so well too, if someone decides I need to move to London for a new job, or I've decided to, what were some of your others? Because that doesn't sound as drastic. But if you have a major life change, how also Victor said, I never want to see this couple fight really and genuinely. I don't want to see bickering. I want to see a couple that decides consciously every day, no matter how hard it is, and what they have to express to each other to be honest and make it through. I like seeing a show about a surviving team and family and this sort of like origin feeling of how these people band together and fix things, because we're in a like decaying society of people not being able to make it work. And therefore, for me, was the optimism and the heart. And if you have that, you can kind of go anywhere. Same as Suburbia. It's like, I can't relate to outer space, but I know it happens in a home. That I understand.
In the finale of the first season, there's the argument about, which is such a classic marriage argument, where Sheila kind of lures Joel into, how would you kill me? It's fine, whatever you want to say. He finally says, okay, I'd hit you in the head with a baseball bat. And that becomes like a recurring thing to dig at him. But obviously the setup gives you a chance to kind of make fun of and talk about marriage, right? I mean, does everybody who's married kind of relate or has been married?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Big time.
How about you? Have you seen these dynamics in your
20,
life?
23 years
Now
for
that
me
you've
and
been married
Mrs.
that long.
back home, right? And our two little ones are watching. Go to bed. Go to bed. I don't know where to go with that joke.
No, that's good. Thank you for
ran out
that.
Yeah, I mean, that is where the show lives. There's high stakes, which is fun, but the show lives in that relationship. And how do we navigate like the tiny thing? Is the gardener stealing the hose? You use that example while they're cleaning up blood and guts from the kitchen and talking about. I also like the little discussions. This is from first season of who are we going to kill? We need to kill somebody. So how do you navigate that? Like the perfect template would be the young single Hitler, they decide in that first season, but that guy's not out there. So, it's the smaller discussions that married couples have against this backdrop of, obviously, the wheels have come off in this giant way because Sheila's killing people.
And Tim, so many of us know you from Justified. How are you having like a lot of fun doing something that's so different? Is this the blast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had fun pretending to be a badass for years, and now I'm having fun pretending to be a total wuss. No, this job's a kick. I mean, if I could figure it out, I'd just do this for a few years and then call it a day. It's been a good one.
And you say wuss, which is so interesting because so many women
No, I didn't mean wuss.
would love a husband like you.
I was just playing. Oh,
It's true.
well.
Because not a lot of, it's not every day that. And I have to make a comment with something I was thinking about last night while I couldn't sleep from jet lag, is, and I think it's in the episode we just watched, so it's actually relevant, is when I say, please don't ever give up on me. The way you say never has 1% of hesitancy and 99% of I'm just going to do whatever it takes until I break. And it's one of the most great single words I've ever been around in the ability to act my way through life, the way you say it. And it's true to men. Men are never going to be like, never. It's like Frozen. She's like, can I say something crazy? He's like, I love crazy. And then he tries to kill her. So you know
Right, yes.
that like that's why that happened. But the way you say never is so perfect because you're still a man, but you're just doing everything you can, you know, until your untimely death practically to make this work. And that's why I think women do really love him as a husband. That's all I hear. I wish I had a husband like Joel.
Well, I think it makes someone more brave to be frightened of something or unsure
God,
of
you're
something
Australian.
and do it. Oh, sorry. I've lied to you. None of that happened. I think it makes someone more brave to like be frightened or unsure about something and then be committed to doing it anyway. I think he's less of a wuss because of that.
Well, and Liv, now that you've revealed your accent, can I ask you a question? You grew up in Australia.
Yes.
So what do you think of the show's critique of suburban America? Is Australia, would it apply to Australia too, or is this a uniquely American world that's being sent up here?
It's funny because there are well, okay, when I first came to the States, what struck me was that it felt a bit like a parallel universe. Not like, okay, like sort of colonial offshoot from England, similar history in a big way, but then big differences. And so what we've ended up with are two places that are similar enough that you sort of know what you're doing the whole time. But the little differences really trip you up. It'd be like going to a parallel universe and like your dog's a different breed and your sister's not there. Like just everything's the same, but these 5 things, and that's what's weird.
So suburban realtors, they're the same, or basically, or
I mean,
not called realtors?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Sort of. A little bit. But maybe a bit more casual, maybe more comfortable swearing.
Right.
I know I'm trying to keep it to a minimum. I'm so sorry. And if there are children in the room, please let me know.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, there's one.
Well, I mean,
I'm free.
We're swearing in that as well, so the damage is done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already
fine.
happened.
I'm free.
Well, and Skylar, you represent you kind of are the stand-in for nerd culture, with all due respect here, right? In this show, I mean, you're kind of and I think that's important. That's an important part of today's suburbs and today's growing up, right? And
Which could not be a farther stretch from,
really, is it a stretch for you? Are you? Well, yeah. I see what you mean. But like, are you into that stuff, or have you researched it at all? Have you learned about it, like the world of gamers and science? Kids are into science and all that.
Yeah, I did. I'm a pretty weird dude to begin with. I mean, I was homeschooled for like 13 years, so that does a number on you, what I mean? You get weird. No, but I didn't. I knew some things, but it's actually been really fun getting more into it for the role. But before the role, no, I didn't really have a knowledge of like video game stuff or the zombie stuff, but you learn along the way, for sure.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of like you guys are good in the show, but there's a lot of like really weird guys, like the one in the episode we saw, the vomit guy and all that. What's going on there? Like, there's a critique of sort of toxic maleness in the show.
I hadn't thought of it. I mean, I thought of it in terms of like, well, who would answer an ad to produce their own bile?
Right. Okay. So it's functional to the script.
So then it starts there, and so that informs our casting. But yeah, we've had, and in the second season, we're lucky with this cast, we're able to attract really good talent. So obviously we have had Andy Richter and Joel McHale is in the second season, and Maggie Lawson, and so we have a deep bench, which is we're really fortunate to have.
And how about writing a character like Drew's, the strong female character in 2017, 2018? How do you both approach that? How do you make sure that character is real, that we're not kind of mansplaining onto that character?
I think writers should be able to write all kinds of characters, not just who, their experience is informed by who they are, but they shouldn't just be able to write their own voice. They should be able to write other voices too. I've certainly written strong women before. I like strong women personally. I feel like I like watching them. I like interacting with them in real life. So I knew that that character was going to have a lot of strength, or that light switch when it got flipped on was going to have a lot of strength. And they're always, I mean, strong, smart characters are always just more fun to write. You
Right.
know? I mean, I think years ago in sitcom, and probably a lot of them still do, there's always the dumb character, which got really tiresome, but that character was there because you could always help with exposition with the dumb character because they don't understand what's happening, and so you explain it to them. And dumb jokes are like, writers love dumb jokes because they're so fun and easy to write. But that gets tiresome, and I think, you know, what I like about the show is the reality of the relationship, and so they feel like real people to me, and so it's not hard to write either of those characters, just feel real. It's more like a little bit, you know, I was on Mad About You years ago, and that kind of informs this, of kind of how couples, this couple has been together 25 years, how they can finish each other's sentences, how they know each other so well, they know what bugs them about each other, and they have this unconditional love that happens after 20 years so that no one's going anywhere, and they're just connected. So and they're both smart, I think. So they're on the same page a lot, and that's just fun to work. It's fun to write. It's not difficult.
And Drew, what do you think about? I mean, do you look for that in roles, trying to make sure you're not falling into some cliche, or what do you look for in a role?
I have no idea. Ever since I've had children, I didn't think I wanted or should act anymore because I've been so nervous about spending that, you know, films and television have very long hours, and I felt like I had worked since I was 11 months old, and now it was time to turn my attention to my 11-month-old, my two 11-months-old. And then my life had like a meteor hit it, and I just got, I don't know, maybe the karma for that horrible turn that I wasn't expecting, divorce. I thought I'd be married forever, and I was just so distraught and sad and confused, and then this thing came my way. And I thought, oh, well, this is the worst timing ever. I've given up on this career. I'm all about my children. And then I literally received this script, and I was very hesitant. I just didn't, again, think it was the right time. And sometimes what seems like the worst timing in your life will be the thing that ultimately pulls you out of the worst devastation you've ever had. And I... Yeah. Thanks. I had like forgotten I was an actress, and this reminded me that I was, and I worked very closely and honestly with Victor, and I just said, I'm so broken. I like this woman I would love to equate being undead with the awakening of your life, and that was how I approached it with Victor. And I was like, shit, I'm overweight. I'm so sad and confused. And maybe when you just walk through your life every day, like in pain and the mundane, but you think you're supposed to be doing it this way, but maybe you should be doing it that way. I got to go on a journey in the safest place with these people on this stage and have one of the greatest experiences of my life. And then they had us back again. Yeah. And this is season 2, and it is honestly one of the best things that's ever happened to me, even in a karmatic way, of getting to play a woman that Victor writes amongst the most brilliant comedians. I mean, you asked Skylar about his like nerd culture. I sit in these script readings with him every week, and it's like Woody Allen like called and wants his like comedy timing back. It's like everyone's working on this insane level. Liv is so good, Tim is so good, Victor's so smart. I just got enveloped by an incredibly safe and exciting world. So I think I just got lucky in an unlucky time.
Well, and is that what? Yeah, really. And is that part of what attracted you to it, that the promise of the show is it's not just till death do us part, it's even a little longer than that, you know? It's kind of...
I think there's an optimism to this show.
Yeah.
And I just, no matter how bad life gets, like, cry it out, but march forward. Don't sit in a corner and sit in your shit. Move on. Don't do that. And there kind of is that same tone to this show. Like, okay, now you're fucking dead. So now what? And I like that because it's a great metaphor for how we are supposed to pull ourselves up every morning, every goddamn day, no matter what's happening, and find our bliss and our strength and our empowerment and band together like a tribe. And that's what I believe life is. And I know there's some other stuff going on in the show, but I definitely would love to eat a few people I could think of. So...
Now you're dead, so now you're dead, or you're dead, so now what is also a great tagline for our show.
Yeah.
Season 3.
Patent pending, patent pending.
See that? We got something out of this. And Tim, what about you? Deciding to do this project, what was it?
I'm glad you asked. And please, you can hold your applause during my answers. I found when my kids were small, I would stare at them for a few weeks and think to myself, yeah, I'm gonna go to fucking work. I think it'd be best for me. I think it'd be best for you guys. Dad got a job. And it was also the only place where I could really get a nap. Because when the kids are small, no, there's no napping around the house. What was the question?
I mean, does it matter? Just what drew you to playing the part of Joel?
By this show? Oh, well, I just adored this thing. When this thing came to me, I was pleasantly surprised that they offered it to me. It's not the kind of thing that I had done before. Everybody kind of knows in our line of work, they tend to just offer you what you've done before. So it's always, it's really quite thrilling and refreshing when somebody offers you something, especially when it's good. And so I immediately was drawn to it. I thought, well, if I can get away with this, I actually didn't think I was perfect for it. But the great thing about television is that it's a very fluid medium. And so I figured, well, as long as I'm perfect for it around episode 4, we'll be fine, So that's kind of the fun thing about TV is that, if given the opportunity, you can really kind of hit your stride if you don't right off the bat. It's one of my favorite things about season 2. I think season 2 is the very best of season 1 consistently all season long, and it's really it's really quite rewarding to have that kind of experience.
Well, yeah, and that I wanted to ask you about Netflix and doing a show on Netflix versus doing a show on traditional linear TV, where it's like, boom, the whole thing hits at once, and people sample, and they may or may not stay. I mean, has that been challenging? Has that been good, bad, and different?
Well, let me just say, when I first met with Tim, he kept saying, like, you want me for the Joel character, right? Not the neighbor. I'm like, no, it's the lead. So he thought like it was going to be Dan at the time who died in that first season. Like, really? Okay. It was not designed for an Tim Oliphant type of character, but we saw Tim and saw what he can do comedically. He had done some comedy, not a ton. But it's such a richer piece because of it. I think it was kind of designed more typically for like more of a schleppy kind of guy who's like, a follower, and to have Tim's strength, I think, has just really enhanced the show. Netflix, oh my God.
Yeah. And I also want to know what Tim's diet is, because actually I'm envious of the it's like you're very trim, for a suburban dad.
Such a good metabolism.
Right? Is that what it is?
You. I get like fat in between seasons. Thank God for the
At this point
diet.
in my life, I mostly just drink.
Anyway, sorry, you were saying.
There's so many advantages to being at Netflix. I was joking with the executive backstage. If this was a network show, the pitch would start with the Hammonds are the best realtors in Santa Clarita, because everyone has to be good at their jobs on network, until one day there's a knock at the door and Sheila's parents are moving in with them. Because that's what networks do, right? They have like, your life is going fine, and then your parents come to visit. So it was, the premise of it could only be done at a place like Netflix. You know, we love that it's serialized, which network television doesn't allow us to do in half hour until the show is maybe 3, 4, 5 years into it. So everything is a freestanding episode. You're always resetting back to one. This, we love that we can have these cliffhangers, and you know, it unfolds like a 5-hour movie, which is challenging for us as writers, but much more exciting. We don't have to act break every 4 minutes, which is, I think, killing network television, that you have to manufacture these big uh-oh moments. Their content time is now down to about 20 minutes for half an hour, which is crazy, with 4 act breaks. So there's a lot of stuff that they make it harder and harder, I think, to do good half-hour comedy every year, which is why I think half-hour comedy is really struggling on networks. You know, I don't think that writers have gotten worse in the last 20 years, but I think that there's so many restrictions on network that it's really made it hard to do good half-hour. And then the last thing, I think that we just don't get the volume and idiocy of notes. I mean, they're smart Netflix, they're smart executives, they empower you to do the show you want to do, they're along for the ride. They have questions, which is good. Like, a good executive should be like a good editor. What are you going for here? Oh, we didn't get that. But what I found in my last many years, and I only did network television up into this, is that as network ratings went down, executives became more and more hands-on, which was the exact opposite of what they should be doing. So there was less interesting voices in network television, because it all went through the meat grinder of what they felt they could sell. And it became just more boring and more obvious. And so Netflix has a joy that they bring to the process, as opposed to a fear that I felt at networks. The fear comes into the writer room because whatever you're doing, you feel like somebody there is not going to be happy, and they're going to let you know. So, but at Netflix, you feel like, you know, they embraced it. They had no notes. They said, "Great, go do it." You know, they would have a couple of notes. We would have table reads where they would come out and say, "This is fantastic. Go, just don't fuck it up." You know, those are the only notes. So,
and you also have freedom to do what looks like a traditional, almost an old-fashioned sitcom, but has curse words and
bad words and drugs.
Yeah, bad words and drugs
and
gore everywhere. Which, by the way, I do also wanted to ask about that. Just the effects, like just Liv and Skylar. Like, can we talk about some of some of like the crazy effects that you guys are dealing with? How does that work? What's that like to do?
We're blessed to work with like an incredible team who work on the special effects.
Tinsley.
Just
anyone in Hollywood needs a good effects team.
They're wonderful.
Tinsley.
And I never forget a moment while we were filming season 1 where they made Dan's corpse double. They made like the fake body of Dan with all of the bite marks missing out of him and like everything taken care of. That is a dead fake person, and they put him sitting upright in a cast chair. And that entire day, everyone was just walking like around the studio going, "Jeez, okay, all right, no, it's fine."
Or like, "Hey."
Like, "Hey, what's up?" And that's I think like very indicative as to like how we treat the gore on our show. Is that like I don't know about you guys, but like I'll end up taking selfies with the fake dead people, and like you'll step over an arm and be like, "Oh well, just another day at the office." Like,
right.
Just like gallons of blood everywhere, and it's like there's a sense of fun and a sense of play with all of that, which is great.
And yet the effects look so real.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's insane. I'm eating parts all the time, and
Yeah.
like I started in like I think my first effects movie was Firestarter, and they had to put me in a full body cast because there were people burning all around me, and that was a little unsafe. So they were like, "We're gonna build like but it looked like fucking Madame Tussauds back then. No offense to the special effects team, you only had wax to work with. But like they covered my whole body and put 2 straws in my nose. It was the first time I understood the term claustrophobia, because I'm not. and they're waiting for the plaster to dry, so you're lying there. I was 7, and like it took 45 minutes from head to toe, like closure. Tinsley, it's so crazy, like the technology and how they do it. Just everything looks so real, and I think that helps the show. That it's not, the comedy is within the characters and the dialogue. It's not because it all looks like, some crazy movie. Which I think helps grounds it.
Like you can see pores.
Yeah.
You can see individual
hairs.
pores. And
Everything
hairs
is
and,
dead on.
Eyelashes and like.
So a lot of it's not. It's a lot of it's really
All
there,
of it,
not
a
like
lot
CGI.
a lot of it is practical.
We
effects.
do, yeah, both. There's on-set. Christian Tinsley does our on-set stuff. We do also work with a company called Zoic, which does our post effects, which we also, second season, we use a little bit more post effect. Should I give you a spoiler? Something exciting that happens. You know that ball that she throws up? It grows legs and walks.
Liv.
That's crazy. So that is something that you'll see is all a post effect. So, we do. Did you know that?
Liv. Mr. Ball Legs.
We call him Mr. Ball Legs.
Tim, let's do our inside joke that we have too.
What's that? What's ours?
Because we have one too, right?
What?
I don't want to.
I'm not ready to give it to the world.
Yeah, we have so many. It's hard to
Just keep it
choose
here.
because we have so many inside.
And I don't know about you, but I find the special effects way better than the special effects I was working with when I was 7 as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I found that.
I mean, I don't know what
case,
you
yeah.
worked with when you were 7, but
It
it pales in
because
comparison
that was
to
like
Tinsley.
43 years. Yeah.
My brothers and I were working with pretty advanced stuff, but nothing like this.
Drew, what are
Sorry.
you eating though? Really, when you're eating, what is that?
People just want to know.
I'm eating ego, that's for sure, on this set. Which I don't have any already, but I'm eating humble
I know the
pie.
answer to all of these by now.
I know. Yeah, Tim, you answer it.
Wet cake.
Fish sometimes.
What?
Sometimes.
Where have you? Has it been fish?
It was ahi
never-
tuna
Ahi
at the
tuna
family
was-
dinner.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh my God! The more you know. I only heard the dehydrated apples.
Dehydrated apples, yeah, as well.
Chopped up pasta with red dye.
Drew likes to say something about edible rubber, which we all know is not possible.
It's not a
Did
thing.
you-
I've ignored it, but she continues to say it.
Did
Interview
you know
after interview,
that
you
there
talk
are
about
rubber trees in Asia?
Well, that's where rubber comes from, is the rubber trees. That doesn't mean you can eat it.
Am I trying to get him and sounding so stupid at the same time?
No.
It's an organic rubber.
There are rubber trees, and that's where like our rubber comes from.
But all
Victor,
rubber
you want to
comes
weigh
from
in on
trees.
this?
It does?
Whatever we
Yes?
hand
Oh,
Drew-
shit. See,
It
this
makes
is
it sound
also like
she's eating a tire.
Whatever we hand Drew, we just put the word edible in front of it.
yeah.
It's edible rubber. It's
Edible
But
rubber.
this is the essence of Liv and I on the show, is that even though Sheila's trying to be like an authority figure, she's always just learning everything from Abby. And their relationship to me was also a huge selling point as a mother of 2 daughters with Victor. And my daughters are younger than Liv. Tim has teenage kids as well as Victor does. But I do think the dynamics between women in general and mothers and daughters is so humbling in itself and fun and exciting and interesting that was also, and Victor said Abby is in her origin story, like Abby is a badass. And I want my kids to be badasses, and I want to be the proud mother of badasses in real life.
Here we go again.
And that struck an emotional chord with me with the show.
Tim, do you want to say anything
I
about
just
the
want
inspiring
to say
relationships
the relationship
between?
that Skylar and I also we have between fathers and like a son is also so special and unlike anything that women have.
Fathers and boy neighbors.
I feel like right now, especially with young
Eric
boy
doesn't
neighbors.
have a dad. He had a dickhead stepfather who you killed, and he needs you. Just saying.
Now more than ever.
Now more than ever. Yeah.
All right, this is such a great audience. I feel like we should I should ask some of their questions.
By the way, thank you for taking the time to moderate this, Mr. Big
Thank
Vanity
you.
Fair dude.
Oh, yeah.
From digital headquarters. I was so honored to be at the 92nd Street Y. I live in the Upper East Side with my kids, and when I found out you were moderating this, I was like, really?
Oh, stop.
No, I'm
please.
serious. Thank you. Thank
Well,
you very much.
Thank you. And I actually edited your cover story that Krista wrote a little while back, and she told me to say hello. Krista Smith.
Skylar,
Anyway, sorry.
they
we're
also
doing it.
have a little.
Here we go.
They have a little over there. Hey, I used to play basketball here.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Many years. Yeah, my in-laws live a few blocks from here, and when I was poor and broke and struggling, they allowed my wife and I to live in their place, which God bless them because it meant the world. And then I'd walk down here to play basketball, and that's the end of that story.
Pretty good. I like it. Okay, this is a question. I actually had this question too. You are all hilarious. How much of that is part of the genius of the script, and how much is improvised?
Oh, it's all us. We're very funny.
Mostly us.
Glad we have Victor here to fact check this.
We just send out a paragraph of this is what the scene should kind of feel like, and then
It's
they
like
just
The script goes, Drew
about
says
that,
something
yeah.
funny, Tim says something funny, Liv says something funny, Skylar says something funny. End of episode. That's it.
Just the Larry David model. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry because I feel like I'm just hamming it up over here, but I swear to God, I've never had a job like this in my life. It is word perfect. Yeah. If you do a scene where the and doesn't have the comma, and so should I, as someone will say it, the wording of the script is so unique. It is not exactly the way we speak. That's always my excuse to Victor when I fuck it up, and Tim and Liv and Skylar. I'm like, I'm sorry. It just you would go after the then, but that's what makes it so funny. The writing is so crisp and unique, and you have to learn it in a way that doesn't almost make sense to memorizing. It is written like much more of the comedies of the 20s and 30s. It is very rare, it is very unique, and if you fuck up, the script supervisor comes up to you, tells you to get it right, and you reshoot the shot. And I love it. But it is a new exercise, but it is word perfect. There is no improvising on the show. If you like it, then you like the writers, and you appreciate the comedy people bring to it.
And it has a real voice. I mean, you can tell, and in a great way, I think. So, and I think, Victor, this one's for you. Or maybe it is for Skylar. Should Eric be worried about ending up in the fridge?
Oh,
Please no. Please don't. Yeah. Hopefully not.
no, we love Eric. We love Skylar. No, I mean, it's a small cast. Look, it's only 4 people, so we're not going to kill any of them. We have plenty
you
of
heard
other
it here
people to
first,
kill.
so we're going to hold you to that, Victor. I think
If we could get that in writing. That would be great.
I think this is for Drew. Do you have any curiosity about eating humans now? I guess anyone could answer this.
No, I'm good, thank you. Metaphorically, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, if you could eat anyone in Hollywood on the show, who would it be and why? So glad you guys are asking these questions that I can't answer.
So would that be someone you like or dislike, do you think?
See,
eat
we've had
them,
this conversation before. This is something that we've tossed around on set before, and it always comes back to that. Is it is it something that is it an honor, or is it like a revenge killing? Is it someone that you admire greatly, or is it someone that you despise? And we could never quite figure it out. None of us ever landed on anyone.
Okay, but isn't the show, on the show, you're killing people that deserve to be killed, right?
We're doing our best.
We're trying.
Be bad people in Hollywood then, I guess, if you're going to eat them.
Yeah, but I don't. Some of
The writer's room told a story that I guess a few years ago in Germany, somebody took an ad out that he would eat you if you wanted him to, and he had about 400 people, I guess, responded to this, and he did eat apparently 2 people before the police.
Did they
Isn't
understand
that an
it
episode of
wasn't
the
just
IT
the
crowd?
pussy?
That certainly changes the
100
question.
women responded. They were like, yeah, I'm Netflixing and by myself. I'd love to get Never mind. I should have just stopped before.
Okay. Okay, this question is from a young actor and a fan. He describes
classy.
himself as Ethan Koske. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. My question is for Ms. Barrymore and also for Mr. Gisondo. They both started acting at an early age. If they could give one piece of advice to a young actor like themselves, what would it be? Skylar, you want to start?
One piece of advice.
Yeah, to an actor like yourself, a young actor.
Well, you figure I'm 47 now, so it's been a long time. I think just pay attention and learn from other people. I think I really benefited from being lucky enough to work with a lot of really cool people. I mean, this experience included, and I'm always just sort of watching and really soaking it up. And I mean, it's just so awesome to be around people who are super good at what you like to do, right? Whatever it is that you love to do. It's an awesome opportunity, so I feel super lucky to get to work with everybody here every day. And that was always something along the way that I think I did.
But you don't want to tell them how most kids that start out when you started out are just fucked up.
It's true. I was just on Colbert tonight, and what the fuck? Why does this fuck everybody up? I mean, it did for me for a brief period.
Normal adults.
But doesn't everybody
Children.
go through a brief period of crazy, but just not publicized?
Part of
and
it
they're
is
not
that,
proud
right?
of it,
Yeah.
but nobody knows about it.
Come on, both of you, right? By the way, both of you, it's amazing. But because I would assume it was just bananas. You have to warn him. There's a kid out there.
You have a good family structure.
Listen,
Yeah,
I don't
and
know
you're
how old you are, but I didn't start till I was in my 20s. And I hated kid actors. Because they got their parents with them, and they're nightmares. So don't be that guy. That's the advice.
Well, did an 8-year-old ask
I
the
know it
question?
wasn't for me, but I felt like I needed to jump in. It's a cry for help, for God's sakes. It's a cry for help.
See, you thought this answer was from me and Skylar. It's from Tim.
Well, okay, do you have an answer, Drew?
I would never let my children do this. Until they're in high school and they want to do plays, and my daughter's about to attend a school that's really big in sports and theater and academics equally. They want you to try everything that you're afraid of or incapable of or excel at equally, which I think is so cool. And I mean, I couldn't love it if my kids wanted to do this more when they're older. It'd be so hypocritical of me if I didn't. But I just grew up in such a unique way. My kids go to sleep at 7:30 every night. They just know a very normal, stable life. And
You had straws in your nose with fire.
yeah,
burning around
I
you.
was asleep in restaurant booths with my mom at midnight, at 4. This just we're living completely parallel lives. So, I do worry about kid actors because they do seem to all get fucked up. So, Skylar, this question should
Let's take
really.
a look at the kid.
This is a
Where's the
facade.
kid?
Save
Let's put the
yourself.
spotlight on the kid.
Ethan.
I was gonna say
Let's decide.
Hey, there he is.
Oh, okay.
There he is. All right, let's chat. Let's talk. How old are
Hi.
you?
All right.
Come on.
How old are you?
How old are you?
12.
Oh, man. All right. Okay. Everyone's listening, so they'll remind you if you forget about this. I'll tell you 2 things. One, it's a job like any other job, no matter what anybody tells you. It's the same as any job. You do your job, you show up on time, da-da-da. And here's the problem. Nobody ever tells any of us to shut the fuck up. No one ever does it. No one ever says, oh, my God.
Hey, Tim. Tim?
Thank you. This is the problem with the job. Normal people hear that all the time. People in our line of work don't hear it. They just want you to make sure you do the dance when the lights are on, and they'll give you candy or do whatever you need. Right? Yeah. Right. They're just going to prop you up.
You were
So
really
you have
making
to have
sense
somebody in
before.
your right. No, this is making
Because
sense.
you said it's a job like any other job, and
Yeah.
I think that's where kids get lost.
Yeah.
It is a job. It's like a summer internship at an ice cream store or a fish aquarium or some, Nantucket Island dream that you're working at like this, like, I'm going to pull tadpoles all summer, like for free. But what it is asking you to be at your call at 8 a.m. You work your work shift and you go home and you get a good night's sleep. And that's what gets lost. Because we're kids, we think that it's really fun and maybe we can color outside the lines, but it's no different than a man going to his office and clocking in and clocking out.
But for most part, if you misbehave, even if not then, even now.
I never misbehaved at work. It was always outside of work.
But then what changed along the way?
Well, I had no parents, and I had to. By the way, Tim. Now you see what it's like on our set every day. Liv's like, Tim, I'll have your real answer.
Timothy.
Are you worried or what? What do you think?
I think I'm fine.
You're gonna be fine. You're fine.
Good for you. You are fine. All right, Ethan.
But I tell you what, it is a fun job. It is a fun job.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it
kid
is a
wants
job. And I will say, even in my wildest of times in my life, they were always extracurricular. I never once was late. I never once didn't know my lines. I never once pulled shit. And that is why I got the karma to get my job back. It was embarrassing to screw up your life at 13 years old and have that be on the cover of the Inquirer. And of course, they pick like the picture of me holding ET. It's so pathetic. Like I might as well be in my pajamas with a teddy bear. It's like just so awful. But I always knew how lucky I had it. Never screw people over. Never screw up your job. Figure things out in your personal life. Nobody gets a free ride of behaving perfectly their whole life. Shocker, but they don't. But keep it to yourself. Be professional always. And somehow things will shake out okay.
And then I think, Dad, you have to take your... I've worked with a lot of kid actors, and some really want to be there. And where it works best is when the family is following the kid's lead. If the kid desperately wants to be doing this, then I think it generally works. But I've also worked with kids who thought they wanted to do it. They don't anymore, but now they're stuck in it. And the parents really want them to keep doing it, and that's where it starts to go off the rails. So the priority is great childhood. A great childhood could be non-acting, or if the kid really desperately wants to act, then a great childhood is to empower your kid as you would if you wanted to do anything, to give him the tools that he has, that he needs, so he can go off and do it. But it's really up to you have to really want it. I think that's the thing about acting, is you have to really want it, because 5% of the guild makes a living acting. It's a really hard gig. These are all very successful actors. Most are not. We live in Hollywood. We have friends that are you go into auditions once a week. You're getting, a lot of it is very personal when you don't get a role. You have to really, really want to be an actor to act, I think, or not be able to do anything else but act.
Yep. But since we're on this topic, isn't it? It's not just about the work, but it's really about. I mean, Drew, you were getting at this. It's about the life. Like, what are the things that are making you think it's not a job? I'm bigger than everybody else, right? Like, isn't that part of it? The toxic ego
God,
trip?
I'm a maggot. I'm not only not bigger than anyone else. The craft service man is much more powerful than me.
Oh, so you feel smaller than everyone rather than bigger?
No, I just don't think that ego has a place in this world. If
Right.
Freud's triangle of the id and the superego, fine, great. But the ego is just bullshit, and you gotta rein it in, because it's true. Who in the hell thinks they're better than anyone else?
Right.
I'd like to eat that person.
There you go. We got that
and
answer
teach them
finally.
a fucking lesson, because you're not. Everyone has a place in this world. Everyone can make a huge difference and become one of the most powerful, influential people. They're just another human. And another person can be as happy with their own contented life or somewhere in between. I have no belief in my body ever since I was a child, and I still carry this, and I will until the day I die, that anyone is more important than another person. And that's the way I live my life, period. I don't remember what the question was, but that's the answer to
That's great.
the
That was the
question.
answer I was
I've lost
hoping
my
for.
way around.
Well, we're getting close to time to wrap up here. I want to remind everybody that the second season of the Santa Clarita Diet premieres on March 23rd on Netflix, which is very soon. Before we close, though, I want to ask everybody, we'll all be watching that for pleasure, but it's work for you guys. What do you guys watch? Let's go down, starting with Victor. What do you watch for fun? Like, what's your fun watch?
We were talking about The Crown. I love The Crown. I don't watch a lot of comedy because I got into it because I loved it, and now it feels like work when I watch comedy. I'm kind of deconstructing it too much. I don't enjoy it much. I love The Crown. I did watch, I feel like I'm plugging Netflix, but End of the Fucking World I thought was really good. Limited run, I think, 8 episodes. Really smart. I really enjoyed that. Those are the two I've been... It's a small French show, not to sound like I'm Mr. Smart Guy or something, called A French Village, World War II.
I thought we said egos we weren't going to have ego trips here, Victor.
These guys I mean, that's one of the reasons the show works, I think, is because they are egoless. This is what I would tell you, too. Be useful. Try and be useful. But don't make it about you. Make it about how can I be helpful right here in this moment? With whatever you do, but certainly with acting, because you see actors that are protecting themselves, and it comes from an ego place as opposed to how do I make this better, what I'm doing right now. And all of these guys have that, and so they're very open to direction. They're very open to the script supervisor coming in and saying like, hey, you're transposing these words. If you do it this way, it's probably going to work better. Many actors would be furious at that because they don't like being told it's their station. They don't like being told it's an ego thing.
Yeah, but that's silly.
It makes the worst. Well, it's not that uncommon. It is silly, I think, but it's not that uncommon.
I am furious when it happens, but I wait till I get home and I take it out on my children.
Whatever you do, it works.
I just feel that's the professional thing to do.
All right, Liv, your turn. What show are you watching? If any?
I've been watching a lot of movies lately, which has just been really fun. I had a cold very recently, so I marathoned all of Broadchurch, which I know is not recent, but I love it very much. And then I went immediately from Broadchurch to watching Nailed It, that new baking show on Netflix, because I just felt like I needed a palate cleanser between stellar fucking performances from like David Tennant and like Olivia Colman and like murder and crime and intrigue, and like I just need to see some people ruin a cake.
Yeah.
I just need a break. So that's what I've been watching lately.
Tim?
I don't watch television. I've been enjoying, as they say, March Madness.
Oh, yeah.
Or it's known in my house, March Bullshit.
You're not a UVA fan, are you?
It's just bullshit. I just don't. Has anyone paying attention? My bracket looks awful. It's just one game, and it's anyway. So I do enjoy. I like sports. I feel like it's drama at its best, I'm a terrible television watcher. I'm really big at watching just like 10 minutes or 15 minutes of something, and unless it's amazing, I'm just bad at it. Like we were just on these. We went. It was amazing. We had this wonderful experience. We got to go to Asia, and on the one thing that's great about those long flights is you can watch 10 minutes of everything. And I can tell you about 10 minutes about the Justice League, which is probably all you need. I'll tell you something else that I found curious. They had television on there, and then you click on drama, comedy, and da-da-da. And I clicked on comedy, and I watched a little bit of a couple comedies, and it was curious. They were all really depressing. There's a curious thing happening. I had no idea. There's a lot of comedies.
Depressing is.
They went the other way. They went with the non-funny comedies. They were really interesting and artistic, though, and I'm sure if I stuck with them, it really would pay off. But sadly, I didn't.
I'm like with Victor. Always, I watch The Crown. I loved it, and this is why Victor and I have emotional, amusing, tender, heartfelt conversations, and then I go in and eat somebody, and he and I think that's really normal.
Skylar and I have a similar thing.
Yeah.
But I love Victor. I do. I love Victor so much. He is the greatest person ever, and he created this show, and I love it so much, and I hear people like it, and then I'm like, oh, this is exactly what it's like on set. I'm not kidding. Like, you are literally getting into a glimpse of one of our 17-hour days. And he's such a kind and gentle family man. And you're like, what the fuck are we doing here? But it's like great, because there is a human, decent, loving person behind it. And you probably sense that amongst all the weirdness.
I just threw up a little bit in my mouth.
And of course, Victor and I watch the same
Is
show.
there an
I'm with Victor. The Crown.
All right, Skylar, take us home here.
Yeah.
Sort of watch a reel of my career, different things that I've done. And I'll just, because it's not, I'd imagine it's what Daniel Day-Lewis feels like when he watches.
Right, yeah.
And it's like, wow. Because what's shocking is how good I was right out of the gate.
Right.
I like The Office. I always watch The Office. Peaky Blinders is so good. Peaky Blinders is great. But yeah, that's it.
All right, well, thank you guys so much. You have been a blast. Thank you to this fabulous audience.